We're live. Welcome to the full moon forecast, Scorpio of 2024. I have Justin Crockett, Elzie, back with me again today. Welcome, Justin.
Hey, Liz, how are you doing today?
I'm doing pretty good. And yourself?
Great. Ready to talk about the full moon.
Awesome. Here we go. So, to get a hold of Justin, you can reach him at his website, justincrockettelzie.com, or you can email him at justin.elzie@gmail.com. And my website is alightpath.com, and my email is liz@alightpath.com. And we both look forward to hearing from all of you. So today we're talking about the Scorpio full moon. It's also called a pink moon, and it occurs on April 23rd at 4:49 p.m. Pacific time. The moon's at 4 degrees and 17 minutes of Scorpio, and the sun is opposite at 4 degrees Taurus and 17 minutes. And this chart that you're seeing is for Seattle, Washington, because your location could change the houses that the full moon is in. So the full moon is in a fixed water sign, Scorpio, ruled by Pluto, the modern ruler, and Mars, the traditional ruler. Rules the 8th astrological house. Scorpio's mysterious, perspective, intuitive, transformational, and power. The caution would be destructive, obsessive, vengeful, controlling, and possessive. Would you like to add anything, Justin?
No, I think you about got it. I always like to say also Scorpio rules death.
Yeah.
Death and loss. And as we see that the Taurus energy represents gain. So this is spirituality versus accumulation that we see with this moon.
I like that. So here's the chart with all the aspects in the center. So it looks like a heck of a lot going on there.
Yep.
And would you like to share the Nakshatras with us,
Sure.
please?
Sure. So one of the things, so for those folks that are just learning astrology, one of the things we do look at are the lunar mansions. And the lunar mansion, when astrologers talk about lunar mansion, it's actually focused on the fixed stars that are in the constellation that the moon is going through. And it's and then the Jyotish or Hindu astrology, they call them Nakshatras. And and so there's this myth or concepts around the constellation and the lunar mansions here, and then for the sun, because this is a full moon, we look at both the sun and the moon and what lunar mansion they're going through. And so in the Jyotish, this nakshatra is called Ashwini, and it's in the fourth pada or fourth section. They're divided up into four sections. And so the sun is the keywords, themes around the sun are determined, healer, empathy, emotional, and attachment. And the ruling planet is Ketu, or the lunar south node. And the ruling deity is the Ashwini Kumaras, which are called the physicians to the gods. And the symbol is the horse head. And so as above, so below, the basis above is creatures to be healed, and basis below is healing therapy. So we see with this, the sun here that we're going to talk about today, there is something to do about the sun being in Taurus, about helping others, and looking at our attachments and being determined. So, and then the next slide would be the moon nakshatra. And then the nakshatra that the moon is in for this full moon is Swati, and it's in the second pada or second section. And this nakshatra or lunar mansion is ruled by Vayu, who is the god of wind, or prana. It's called the divine breath of the gods. And the ruling planet is Rahu, of course, the opposite of Ketu. So it's the lunar north node that rules this. And yes, in Jyotish astrology, the lunar nodes are considered planets. And the symbol is a blade of grass. And why do we say it's a blade of grass? Because of above below is about movement in different directions and changing form. So this moon that we see in Scorpio, we've already talked a little bit about the keywords here about transformation. We see that in the nakshatra here, where there's flexibility, cooperation, and of course movement and changing form. But there's also, when a moon is in Taurus or Scorpio, there is this wanting to find stability, and we're going to see this word as we move forward. So again, we see we're in a healing period, but we're also changing at this particular point in time.
Thank you for sharing that with us.
Yeah.
I'm even learning about the Nakshatras too. So I have a quote here. We do not need magic to transform our world. We carry all the power we need inside ourselves already. J.K. Rowling's.
Awesome.
And then I did a chart here so that the points that we're going to talk about, the Sabian symbols, are clearly defined. So the ascendant is circled in purple, and the ascendant's 28 degrees Virgo, and Virgo's an earth sign. And then the midheaven is at the top of the chart, and that's circled in green, and that's 27 degrees of Gemini. And the sun is in pink, and it's 4 degrees Taurus, and the moon is yellow, and that's 4 degrees of Scorpio.
And can I say something? I was going to say something about this. So for those folks that are kind of trying to get their head wrapped around a sense of this, the moon, and we always look at the ascendant and the midheaven in any chart to give us context. I was thinking, Liz, if this were a person, what would the personality be like? And so I would say, if this was a person, which gives us context for this moon, with a Virgo ascendant, they're logical, rational, very practical. They're the way they move forward in the world is trying to improve things. And then with the Gemini ascendant, our midheaven, they are learning to express themselves and go out, and they want experiences, and it's exploratory, and because it is Gemini, so there's a need to communicate and experience. But because this personality, if we put it in that context, has a sun in Taurus and moon in Scorpio, they're really aware of their Maslow hierarchy of needs, and so again, to materiality versus what they got to let go of in order to gain something. So this is a person that's got this sort of this dynamic going on in the chart, where they are dealing with the resources in life in order to improve things that they want to, the Virgo, but also to experience life at its fullest, being the Gemini midheaven. But that's kind of how I would put it in context if it was a person. What do you think? What do you think?
Well, I like that, and I'd like to add that the ascendant and the midheaven are ruled by Mercury, which Mercury is retrograde, so they might have to do things twice to learn or to experience. They have to try it twice, and then they'll learn their lesson or move on. So that's what I'd like to add.
Right. Yeah, definitely.
Right. Well, in the Scorpio energy of the full moon, I mean, to me, full moons are about releasing already, but it's like going in and doing some inner reflection and review of what changes you'd like to make in your life, whether it's a personal change or something in your job or your education, any level in your life, and then start, releasing to make room to bring that into being and start working on that in the future.
Yeah.
So now we're going to get into the Sabian symbols. In 1925, spiritualist medium Elzie Wheeler channeled the Sabian symbols with astrologer Mark Edmund Jones. There's one Sabian symbol for each 360 degrees of the zodiac. And we're going to start with the ascendant. So we start with the degree before, the degree we're at, and the degree following. So it's like leading up to the now and then moving towards. So Virgo 26, a boy with a censer serves the priest near the altar. Practice in the presence of God. Go ahead and do the next one.
Yeah, and so Virgo 27 degrees is a group of aristocratic ladies meeting ceremonially at a court's function. And so what we have here is the keyword is refinement, or we could say perfection.
And then Virgo 28 is a bald-headed man who has seized power, power of the will. So would you like to say anything about the three together and what they might mean?
Oh yeah. So when we were talking earlier before we taping, I was saying that this represents sort of for me sort of that Virgo, needing to be of service to others, to the world, and trying to improve things, and has the power of will. So whatever is happening with this full moon for us, it's just saying that as we're all trying to improve our lives and help others, that we're going to have the will to accomplish what we want to accomplish practically.
I like that. It reminds me of Virgo being analytical. So
Yes.
analyzing the situation to move forward. Okay, then we have the midheaven starting at 27. And Justin, would you like to read the first one, please?
Sure. The first one is Gemini 26 degrees, which is frost covered trees against winter skies. And the keyword here is essentialization.
And then Gemini 27, a gypsy emerging from the forest wherein her tribe is encamped. Repolarization.
And then Gemini 28 is through bankruptcy, society gives to an overburdened individual the opportunity to begin again. So the keyword here is liberation from the past.
Nice. So to
So,
me, this kind of reminds me of the frost-covered trees. It's like the inter-reflection going on. It's like, you know, when a tree loses its leaves, it's like puts all its energy in the ground and the roots. It's like has it in a way a hibernization, but it's like feeding itself and resting. And then the repolarization, to me, that just means restabilizing, um, and learning through past efforts and mistakes. Anything you'd like to add?
you pretty much covered it. I might add, because we were talking about this before, when I saw that thing about frost covered trees, I thought about it conceptually in Norse mythology, the rune Isa, which represents ice and represents that stillness or stationary or stability thing going on here. So I think it kind of adds to the point that this midheaven is like you said, a time of reevaluating. I think you use the word. We're not really moving forward here so much, but we're evaluating, kind of rebalancing, repolarizing our direction, and letting go of some things from the past so that we can gain some new opportunities. So
Thank you.
yeah.
And then the Sabian symbol for the sun, we start with Taurus 3 degrees. Natural steps lead to a lawn of clover in bloom. Natural fulfillment.
And the Taurus 4 degrees is the pot of gold at the end of the rainbow. And the keyword here is bridge.
And Taurus 5 is a widow at an open grave. Discard the past. So what would your overall theme for this one be?
Well, it's interesting that there's a couple of concepts that come out here in this. One is fulfillment, which is an aspect of Taurus energy, that there is an element of fulfillment when it comes to values and resources, right? Taurus is earth. And then there's this bridge, which is linking the celestial and the earthly nature. So it's almost like that one Sabian symbol about attuning to the cycles in life, so that we don't go through periods of loss and then rich and loss and riches. It's sort of attuning to the flow. And then the last one is really about kind of, to me, sometimes represents Pluto in a chart, the impermanence of all material and social bonds, that sometimes, especially with the Scorpio Taurus energy. Scorpio represents death. You have to let go of something or discard the past in order to for a new door open or a new opportunity to show up here. And I think that's really what the sun is saying here, is it's time to let go of some things so that we can gain something new and attune to nature. What do you think?
I agree, and that theme seems to be kind of coming up with several things already, with the midheaven symbol and with the Pluto energy. It's like release, release to open new doors.
Right.
Okay, the Sabian symbol for the moon. Would you like to start with this one?
Sure. A house raising party in a small village enlists the neighbors' cooperation, and the keyword is cooperation, and that's Scorpio 3 degrees.
And then Scorpio 4, a youth carries a lighted candle in a devotional ritual. The power of symbols.
And then the Scorpio 5 degrees, where we're going towards, is a massive rocky shore resists the pounding of the sea. And of course, here we have the keyword stability. So, what do you think, Liz?
Well, it's like cooperation really stands out to me, but that's one of my favorite words. I like cooperation. And then I would say pay attention to the signs and symbols that you see or hear, because that will create stability. What would you like to say?
No, I agree. I couldn't add anything more. I think that's a great summarization of the moon. Definitely.
These Sabian symbols are very literal.
Yeah.
So again, Scorpio is a fixed water sign. It's ruled by Pluto and Mars. Full moons are about endings, release, adjusting, preparing to move forward.
Can I say something that kind of goes back to the Sabian symbols, that where the midheaven was preparing to move forward, but was still in a stationary point, right? The frusk over trees.
Yes.
And then the ending and releasing was all the discarding of the past and what we saw in the Sabian symbols.
Yes, and then the fixed energy is to maintain and stabilize.
Which we saw the word stability in the Sabian symbols.
and Pluto's transformative.
Mm-hmm.
Mars is action. And Scorpio moon is intuitive and stubborn. And the Taurus sun is reliable. And Venus energy that rules Taurus is about our possessions, and we've talked about that a little bit already too. So it's like the Sabian symbols and all this, it's like they're all saying that kind of the same message, which is beautiful. I love that.
Yeah.
So we start out with an Earth grand trine, and that's the dark blue. And in the 4th house we have Pholus, which trines the sun in the 8th house, which trines Juno in the 12th house. Juno's about relationships. The sun's about our ego, but it's in the 8th house of releasing and letting go. And Pholus to me is always about a turning point. So I would say that relationships need some attention, and like, how can I improve my relationships? Some thought of that might be going on. Would you like to say something?
Yeah, full itself, is sort of has that Plutonian type of energy. It represents change as well, sudden change. So, and I definitely think that there's good, and because Juno represents relationship or marriage, that there's definitely stuff that's going to come up about money and resources and relationships right now. So this could, this just is calling us to look for the sudden changes. And maybe if we're buying a house or selling a house, there's more like to be, and this also with the Jupiter Uranus conjunction in Taurus, there's likely to be some sudden changes in resource, how we may do resource management right now is really to pay attention to sudden changes possibly.
Yes, I like that. And then we have 2 kites off of this train. One in the 10th house going to Vesta and one in the second house going to the moon. So Vesta is a lot of times about our home and hearth, and the moon is our emotions, and it's like our emotions to our possessions, because second house is our possessions. So there could be some tension or feelings about the possessions. I mean, you could just want to get rid of them all, but you might not want to get rid of them because it has a memory attached to it. The memory is more valuable than
Right.
the item.
And I may say one other thing, because let's say that you're in a different time zone, and that moon and sun are in a different house. It still is going to represent something to do with money, values, resources. Because let's say that it's the sun is in the 6th house and the moon is in the 12th house. It could be the person now is dealing more specifically with the money in relationship to work, and so it's still an underlying current here of money, values, and resources, even if it's not in the 2nd to 8th house.
Yes, thank you for pointing that out. I appreciate that.
Yeah.
And then we have another Earth grand trine, and this one has Jupiter and Uranus in the 8th house, trine to Pluto and Ceres in the 4th house, and trine to the ascendant in Virgo. Would you like to speak to this one, Justin?
Yeah, so I'd be curious what you think about the Jupiter Uranus thing, but I think that this is definitely we're going to see some changes in our life around maybe some of the structure where we're dealing with some resource management with our relationships, and because Ceres also can represent how we're nurtured in a group. This could be the time when we say, oh, you know what, this job isn't working out. I need to go work in with a different group or associate with a different group of something that brings more value to me, Taurus type of value. And so there's a lot of situations that could happen with this, but it's definitely represents change, a positive change. Yes, change is good. That's towards our growth because Jupiter's involved.
Well, and I would say with that Jupiter Uranus trine to Pluto and Ceres, it's like if you have a lot of debt, it's like you might be reorganizing and coming up with a new plan to pay down your debt, perhaps. And I want to point out that if you're in a different location, it's not going to be a grand trine because the ascendant would change, but it would still be a mini grand trine because there's the trine between Jupiter and Uranus to Pluto and Ceres, and then the sextiles to Nessus, Mars, part of Spirit, part of Fortune, and Neptune. So there'd still be some of this energy happening regardless. So
what I would say to that Mars Neptune, and I would say that whatever these changes are happening, I think you definitely need to make sure that any decisions you're making are very objective and not subjective.
I like that, and I agree with you. Because Mars in a water sign really wants to take action, but it kind of reminds me of like if we were going to go on a sailing trip and where we want to go, the wind's blowing the wrong way, and yes, we could still get there, but it's going to take us a lot longer, and we only have a week to get there and back. I bet
It's in Pisces, so it's going to be like, oh, whatever.
Yes, good advice or a good counselor to help with financial dealings, or I don't know, if you're selling property, it's like get a good lawyer or a good real estate agent or something. It's like, don't just, well, Susie down the street does that. Don't just hire Susie down the street if she just got her license last week.
Right.
Okay, and then we have a fixed T-square between the sun and moon are opposite, and then square to Pluto. So this full moon, it's like since the ruler of the moon is square to the moon to, make changes and transform. And to me, the moon is like asking us to do some inner reflection there. It's like really dig deep to do that inner reflection to see what kind of changes you really want to make. Don't just make them because you're mad. It's like, be in a good space and make wise choices and decisions.
Yeah.
You want to add anything?
No, I think you got that covered. Yeah.
Okay. And then we have a cardinal T-square with the south node in the first house in Libra, opposite the north node, Mercury, Chiron, and Venus in the 7th and 8th house, square to Ceres in the 4th. Boy, that's a mouthful.
Yeah, a lot to unpack with that one.
You want to start?
Well, I'll just say, I think if I had to summarize it, I'd say that this is the time where of course, because the nodes are in Libra, Aries, we're evaluating relationships and in relation to ourselves. That could be in work, career, home, whatever that is. And because Chiron's there, we're evaluating those relationships based on whether we're being valued. And because this is squaring Ceres in Capricorn, this could be the time when, I need to, let's say, for example, I don't like working here, but I need the money. I need that stability that Ceres is saying, oh, you need that stability. I need to be nurtured in this group. Or we could basically say, nope, that's it. I need a new structure, new Ceres in Capricorn group somewhere else to go to that where I'm valued. So that's how I would summarize that. My what I've seen. What about you?
Well, a new plan. It's like, does it mean that you can't rework the one you're already working on? But it probably needs some revision. And if you just can't do any revision, yes, it might be time to move on. With the T squares, sometimes you feel like you're being pulled in 3 different directions. So be kind to yourself, be patient, and take some deep breaths once in a while, and you know try to stabilize yourself as much as possible.
And I would also say, because Pluto's involved here in this T square, it feels like to me that this could be more things that are outside of our control that initiate this action around this square. Because I find that when the outer planets are involved, we're not initiating it. It's the bigger energies that are saying, nope, this is what's happening. It's stuff you can't control. So I do feel, with Pluto being there, this is the time when we're it's things going to move whether we want to or not.
I agree. Okay, and then we have an opposition with the Nessus, Mars, part of spirit, part of fortune, and Neptune to the ascendant. So, kind of reinforcing that energy with self and others. And since part of it's in the 6th and part of it's in the 7th, it could be at our work or our day-to-day obligations and duties that we have. But, just be patient with yourself when you make choices. And then we have a square between Juno and Pallas Athena. And that's really an interesting one, because our relationships and the strategy we have with our relationships. So it's like, relationship has been emphasized a few times that we've talked about here on our recording. And so I would say that there's maybe a little bit of friction in relationships, but be patient and take your time to form somewhat of a plan or a course of action.
Yeah, I agree. And what I would also add on to that, that palace in Sag to me also represents focusing on our belief systems here. And because it's not just one belief system, but a pattern of belief systems, because palaces represents patterns. So we have these patterns and beliefs in a group, and because it's squaring Pallas Athena, which is about relationship, and it's retrograding in Virgo, we're evaluating. It seems like to me that some of the evaluation of relationships too is based on, well, they don't believe like I do, so there's going to be a lot of evaluation of relationships based on beliefs here. And it's sad. So it's political, it's religious, it's philosophical, and it's not necessarily a bad thing, that we're evaluating. You definitely, there definitely, there's some people's beliefs that are definitely antithesis, I think you could say it like that, to a harmonious environment. So that's it's definitely a good time to be discerning about belief systems here.
Thank you for sharing that. And then the lunar phase family is a 3-year cycle of the moon. When it starts in the new, and it's in the new phase for 9 months, and it goes to the first quarter for 9 months, and it's at the full phase for 9 months, and the third quarter for 9 months. So if you think back to October of 2022, and it doesn't have to be on that exact date, but if you have a journal or a good calendar, you can sometimes know what you were doing around that time and see if what you were planning or what you wanted to bring into form has manifested, and to evaluate that. And it's like, do you want to continue on with that, or it's time to release that or save it for 5 years down the road, or whatever it might be. So we're halfway in this cycle. And then the yearly lunar phase started November 13th of 2023 with a Scorpio new moon at 20 degrees Scorpio. And the full moon will be on the 23rd at 4 degrees and 17 minutes of Scorpio. So we're going to be halfway through the phase. And you can also look back to see if you started anything around November 13th of 2023 and see how that's going. Can you remember anything that you started in November or were thinking about?
Right now, no. not on the spur of the moment, no. How
Well,
about you?
I was, had it on my list to get my YouTube channel started, and I did get that started at the beginning of the year, and update my website, and I got that done. So it's like I've gotten a few things done from that one. So that's exciting, and I am continuing to grow. So that's good.
Awesome.
So any closing thoughts?
No, I think we've summarized it pretty good about what this moon is about, which is about how did you say reevaluating? How did you use that word?
We'll do some self-reflection and analyze and dig deep and just kind of review your life and your work and everything. The sky's the limit, so to speak, and do some review and let go of what you don't want to gently, and then start opening, leaving space to open a new door.
Yep.
So upcoming episodes will be the astrology forecast, May 2024, with Justin and myself. Then Justin and I will be on archetypal symbols on Talk Cosmos about the Taurus new moon, and that's on May 5th, and that's on at 1 p.m. Pacific time if you want to watch that live. Then I've been doing one Astrology Star Sisters Talk Over Tea episode with Sue Minahan, and I have a new guest coming on, and so I'm going to have 2 episodes a month now. One of them is Reverberations of Jupiter and Uranus with Simon, and then with Sue, it'll be Venus and Jupiter ingress into Gemini, and my plan is to grow that to 1 a week. And I want to thank our live audience for being here with us today. And to get a hold of Justin, you can reach him at justincrocketelzie.com. And his email is justin.elzie@gmail.com. And my website is alightpath.com, and you can email me, liz@alightpath.com. Thank you for joining us. Have a good day. Bye.